the day Princess Aelyra chose a human. The royal court laughed. Nobles hid smiles behind their hands. Rival princes exchanged amused glances because, in a galaxy crowded with warlords and engineered heirs, she had placed her hand in the scarred hand of Commander Elias Ward of Earth. A man with no throne, no crest, no ancient lineage. Only a dark uniform and a calm stare, Aelyra heard every whisper and did not flinch. Because while the court saw a primitive soldier from a young world, she saw the only man in the palace who had never treated her like a prize. The only one who had argued with her and corrected her. When the High Chancellor asked whether her choice was a joke, she answered, "No. This is simply the first honest decision made in this court in years." That only made them laugh harder. Yet Elias did not react. He bowed just enough to respect her, not enough to flatter them. In the weeks that followed, poets mocked Earth. Princes called him a pet warrior, yet Elias endured it all with patience. When Aelyra demanded to know why he never answered their insults, he said, "Insults are only heavy if I agree to carry them." And when assassins slipped into the Eastern Conservatory one stormy night, it was Elias who killed the lights, broke the first attacker's wrist, and dragged Aelyra out through a maintenance shaft while royal champions were still arguing over authority. Crouched beside him in the dark with alarms screaming overhead, she finally understood the danger of what she had chosen. She trusted him more than anyone born to her stars. History often enters a room disguised as a mistake. The invasion began at dawn during the Festival of Crowns because cruelty prefers an audience. Draxian warships tore out a fold space above the capital in black formation, and within minutes, the outer defense grid started collapsing, sabotaged from within. The same princes who had once sworn to protect Aelyra now demanded bunkers. One called for surrender before the first shield ring failed. Another begged the emperor to preserve the bloodline and abandon the lower continents. And in that hour, all their beauty and breeding revealed itself for what it was. Ornament, useless in fire, the War Council dissolved into panic. AEPORTS flooded in, orbital yards captured, fleet relays severed, civilian columns trapped under falling sky traffic. And through all of it, Elias stood at the edge of the holotable, silent until the shouting became unbearable. Then he asked for command of the third defense ring. The chamber exploded, a human, an outsider, commanding Imperial forces in the greatest crisis of the age. Generals objected. The Chancellor sneered. The Emperor hesitated, but Aelyra struck the table and said, "If any of you have a better plan than the only person in this room who has already survived being underestimated by an empire, speak now." No one did, because calm had become more valuable than rank. And Elias was the only calm thing left in the palace. Once authority was his, he moved through chaos like he had been born for it. He evacuated civilians through freight tunnels the nobles had forgotten. Armed maintenance crews turned ceremonial barges into decoy ships, collapsed 2 orbital lanes to funnel the Draxian advance into a killing corridor, and promoted a human lieutenant over 3 offended admirals because she was the best tactician available. And he did not care what bloodline anyone came from while cities were burning. That was when the laughing stopped. Then came the breach over the Western Hemisphere. 6 Draxian carriers punching through shield storms and dropping armor columns toward the capital's spires. The old generals wanted to retreat to the inner sanctum and preserve the palace. Preserve the throne, preserve symbols. Elias looked at the tactical display and said, "Thrones are metal, people are the empire." Then he led the counterstrike himself. He launched with a strike wing of fighters, half imperial, half human-made. And Aelyra flew beside him against every order her father gave, because she had not chosen him to hide behind him. She had chosen him because he made courage feel contagious. Together they drove into the breach through burning debris and shattered carriers. Elias issued commands in that same steady voice he used when asking for tea. One moment redirecting shield frigates, the next sacrificing his own escort pattern to open a path into the enemy core. He fought like a human, which was to say he fought as if defeat were only an inconvenience. His craft took 2 direct hits. Warning lights flooded crimson. Port thrusters failed, and still he pushed forward. ejecting only after slamming his crippled fighter into the exposed launch throat of the lead carrier. The explosion ripped the Draxian formation apart. Imperial batteries fired through the gap. The lower atmosphere lit like a second sunrise. And for the first time that day, the invaders recoiled. Not because the Empire had frightened them, but because one human had broken their momentum and taught an old civilization how to fight like it wanted to live. Then humanity showed its teeth. By nightfall, the capital still stood, smoking, wounded, alive, and the same court that had laughed at Elias now spoke his name. Nobles who once mocked Earth were carrying water and medkits through recovery halls. The Emperor himself descended from the throne to the triage wing, where Elias sat with burned hands and torn armor while medics worked on soldiers from 6 worlds. And before the entire command staff, the ruler bowed his head to the man they had called unworthy. Later, when the fires had dimmed and the palace windows reflected a bruised sky, Aelyra found Elias alone on a balcony overlooking the city he saved. "Do you know," she asked softly, "that they will never laugh again?" Elias looked at her with exhausted eyes and gave the faintest smile. "Good," he said. "I was getting tired of proving them wrong." She rested her forehead against his, and below them, the people of the capital began chanting his name. Not because he was royal, not because he had married a princess, but because when war came and every shining prince cracked, the human did what humans always do. He adapted, endured, and refused to let a better future die. And from that night on, across worlds that had once laughed at Earth, parents told their children about the princess who chose a human, and how the galaxy only understood her choice when the war began.